Welcome to the opening Kickoff podcast. Oh my goodness, do we have a show in store for you? I'm so excited about this show. I'm your host, Dave Stomlittle. We are down Brandon Stevens this week. He is off dealing with a family matter, but we've got a great guy filling in for him. We'll get to him in a moment. But co-host number one this week is Mr. Peyton Gerard. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. The survivor pool for us is finally over because the Chiefs lost of all teams. We're back to the drawing board. I'm still thinking of what we can do to put something on the line for everybody, but we'll have to revisit that. But I'm doing well.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that at another time. We have filling in for us this week. He is as important of a member to this show as anyone I can think of that is not hosting this show. He is our guy, KP. How you doing, buddy?
I'm blessed, black, and highly favored, man. I'm happy to be here as usual.
All right, and let's introduce our great guest who is kind enough to join us this week. To lay the backstory for those people that don't know him, this goes back 6 years I've known this guy. Way back to when we were on WSR. It was the first time I got to meet this guy. He's one of my favorite people to talk to, one of my favorite people I've ever met from Stevenson. He's been on the show a bunch of times. He is the head men's basketball coach at Stevenson University. Coach Gary Stewart is back. How you doing, Coach?
Fantastic, guys. How are you guys?
We're doing well. I mean, you're probably doing great because your Raiders defeated the Kansas City Chiefs last week. I'm curious to wonder, did you think about messaging our guy Dan Williams and rubbing it into him a little bit?
Well, the problem I had with it was that just like the Las Vegas Raider football team, I was taking a victory lap myself. So I was so elated with the victory that I couldn't even get to Coach Williams. But trust me, as I woke up Monday morning, my thoughts were on him.
I love it. Well, we got a lot to get into. We'll catch up a little bit with Coach Stewart. We'll talk some college and we'll talk some pros. But first, we got to pay the bills around here. Come prop up this on Thrive Fantasy this season. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports app for player props. They've eliminated the need to do countless hours of research because they only ask you about the top tier athletes in a respective sport. Football season is in full swing. You choose 10 out of the 20 player prop options to build your lineup. Each prop has a fantasy point total associated with the over or under based on its likelihood to occur. The more points a selection is worth, the riskier it is. Rack up the most points to win a share of the prize pool. Thrive has awarded over $1.4 million in prizes since launching in 2018 and has $50,000 guaranteed in prizes for the NFL Weekly. Use promo code KICKOFF when you sign up today and you will receive an instant $20 bonus on your first deposit of $20 or more. Download Thrive Fantasy on the App Store or Play Store by visiting their website, www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and hashtag prop up today. All right, so that's from our friends at Thrive Fantasy. We want to catch up with Coach Stewart. We haven't had him on in a while. That's on me. Coach Stewart, I want to ask you, how have you handled this pandemic from the coaching standpoint?
You just have to remain flexible and adapt. So much of it's out of my control, and I just kind of look for the positives. I got away from every day when somebody said, "How you doing?" Is fine or good. I started to use the words magnificent and phenomenal, and just grateful for whatever I get. If it's a little grape that falls off of the tree, then I'm going to run with that. And so that's kind of been my mentality. And so everything that we're able to do, whether it's work out with the guys or opening the campus up, is just a great day. So I chose to go that route, and so far so good. The hard thing is that the world as we've all known it isn't the same. And some things that were very easy for us to do and we took for granted are really, really challenging. and yet I find that adapting and adjusting and keeping a good attitude has been the best way to attack it for me.
Yeah, it's something we're all dealing with, but let's talk about some of the other initiatives that you've gotten into. You're very big into getting voter registration up and going. In terms of the movement and the social justice movements we've seen, Coach, how active have you been in trying to get not only your players but in the community to start to make the change? Like we've seen so many professional athletes and coaches talk about the need for change.
Yeah, I've spent an inordinate amount of time on that. This morning I was on 2 Zoom calls, one for the National Association of Basketball Coaches. I'm part of the Racial Reconciliation Committee, and we meet weekly. So that our call was today, and to discuss some things some initiatives that we're trying to roll out, and then I jumped on a call right after that to try to deal with more minority representation on the sidelines in Division III athletics and in Division II. So trying to do a lot of work around that, along with I've got a new role at Stevenson. So all the stuff that I was doing stays the same, but I've added diversity and inclusion from an athletic department standpoint to my job description. And so I'm doing a lot of things there. I've got a committee, and we're working hard to try to do some good work there. So I've got my hands full.
All right, Peyton, you want to?
Yeah, so I was going to say, going in, obviously, I think most of the students are actually back on campus. Is that correct at Stevenson right now?
Most of them, yes. Yeah, we're not to capacity yet, but we're working towards that.
So as far as like, I don't know if you guys have begun practicing, or like, I know you kind of mentioned, I know they're lifting weights. I don't know if you guys have gotten into that yet. Have they announced anything like going into the season? Any news on like when the season may or may not start, anything like that?
No, it's business as usual. I know that they pushed the start date back as a conference, and obviously that's our institution, to January 1. So we won't play any athletics through the month of November and December. But we're able to practice right now, and there's stages to that. So once you move from stage 1 to stage 2, you're able to do a few other things, and then stage 3, you're able to do more. We're in stage 2 right now, and that part's been good. It's just been good to get around the guys, and like you mentioned, we're in the weight room as well. But as far as playing games, we're still waiting on a schedule. The conference presidents will meet the first week in November and iron that out, and then we'll move forward accordingly.
Now, as far as like that goes, with a later date, starting like that, I'm sure other sports, obviously, I was a member of the football team there at Stevenson. I know they're practicing, preparing, it's kind of like a spring ball for them in the fall. So that can help them. Do you think this later start is going to help you guys gel better as a team? Maybe get more team chemistry, team bonding, as much as you can do, obviously, with the restrictions in place.
Yeah, what I asked my staff was that how could we win this time period? How could we come out of this and be better than when we were when COVID hit? And so we started to strategize and look at things that we're able to do. And we didn't get a game schedule, but we have got a practice schedule in terms of 114 days that we're able to practice. And that's every sport at the Division III level. And then how are we going to utilize those 114 days? And again, with the mantra that we've got to get better, and how can we do that? So that's been our fixation. And to date, I'm really pleased with the rollout and how the guys have adapted to it.
I have to ask, because as I've been sitting here and reconciling about potentially a high school football season happening at any point, did you have any reservations, or do you have any reservations about coaching during this pandemic?
Yeah, I do. for a lot of reasons. You know, I'm ultimately responsible for my staff and the health and safety of them, and obviously at the forefront of that are the student athletes, and so I spend an inordinate amount of time thinking about ways that I can keep them safe and out of harm's way, and trying to educate them as to the do's and don'ts, and that's daily. I mean, we've got a deal where a guy went and got some water out of a drinking fountain, and so we've got to address that tomorrow. So it's constant. It's the messaging has got to be on point, and it's such a critical part of it. So obviously, there is some danger to this. There's no question about that. Danger in relationship to not following protocol, and all of a sudden the one guy gets COVID and the whole team could go down. So I'm always concerned with that, and concerned with all aspects of the program. Even, you know, what is it when we have somebody film? What's the social distancing looking like? And when somebody enters our building, we have them wash their hands, and there's all kinds of protocol that we've instituted to keep them safe.
Now, transitioning and having a little bit of fun and talking about some other stuff. Everybody who's listened to the show knows the John Wooden stories, knows your connection to Greg Popovich. But I got all of that to the side. I got to ask, Coach, can the Angels get Mike Trout in the playoffs, please, once? I know you're a big Angels fan. I just, please, can we get Mike Trout in the playoffs?
Well, I've been on the mantra that we've got to trade Mike Trout, and this was before he signed the long-term contract. And the reason why I think that we need to trade Trout is I'm a diehard Angel fan, as you guys well know, and I just can't keep looking at him play the way he plays, and we don't win. Yeah, so it's easier to handle that if you got a guy that's batting a little bit above the Mendoza line, and you can deal with that. But when you got a guy as good as he is, and you look at him, you know, on a day in and day out basis, it just breaks my heart to see a historically talented guy like that, one of the all-time great talents in the history of Major League Baseball, and we can't win with him. You know, obviously it's a team game, but it's really hard to go through another postseason, and he's not participating, and you know what, he's got 15 at bats to his career, I guess, in the playoffs or something like that. It's really hard to see.
Now, I do want to ask this because you've worked with this guy before. What is John Calipari like behind closed doors? Because we know what he looks like on camera, and he's a character in any interview I see, but you've gotten to work with him behind the scenes, Coach. What is John Calipari like?
Yeah, he's a good friend, and Cal is a guy that is incredibly smart. He could be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. He's really, really, really smart, and a global thinker. What you don't know about him is how passionate he is for the student athlete, and how passionate he is for the growth and the development of the game. He's a protectionist. He loves the game, certainly wants to leave it better than he found it. Often when I'm in the room with him and we're speaking about issues, he's thinking outside of the benefit that this particular legislation might have for Kentucky, and he's thinking, what does this look like for college basketball? And he's just a great guy to work with, and I've always enjoyed my conversations with him. I've always enjoyed listening to him pontificate about a lot of different topics. Like I said, he's a really, really bright guy and a student-first believer. He's really, I think that his public persona, you see the talent that he's able to acquire. What you don't understand is his unwavering work ethic and his intensity and passion for the game. it's second to none. I mean, if you look at that room that I'm in, he's at the forefront of passion and intensity for the betterment of college basketball.
Now, you kind of like mentioned there that, obviously he always brings in, some of the best recruits year in, year out. It's almost like, he prepares for guys to be one and done. Like, he is built for that. That's what he builds Kentucky around. What have you ever had any conversations, or I guess really about how he recruits guys? And it's a little different, obviously, with Stevenson, because it's a 4-year kind of program. Has he ever given you any tips on how he gets these guys to commit? Whether they're going to be a 1-year guy, we have a long-term goal for you guys. I mean, it's really like you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Like, he could be a CEO with his sales skills on how he commits these guys. Has he ever given you any like tips or anything like that on how he convinces these guys ultimately to come there? I mean, Kentucky's Kentucky at the end of the day, but giving that point across there, has he ever helped you out there?
Yeah, the thing that gets lost in all of it is how hard and how much he spends on attention to detail. It is really, really difficult to get the type of student athlete that he gets on a yearly basis there. And it's not one of those things where he just points to a number and says, I want this guy who's first in the country. I want this guy who's third. I want this guy that's seventh best player. He really does his due diligence. He really recruits people that fit what he wants to do. He's able to sell a great institution like Kentucky, and he also is able to paint a picture of this is your goals and this is how you can get there. And he's tremendous at that. There's nobody better than him at that. But the work ethic is there. He doesn't take anything for granted. Just because he got the number 1 player in the country last year doesn't mean he's going to get the number 1 player this year. So he works really, really hard at it. And what he is really good at is relationships. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's solid as a rock with relationships, and he has a unique ability to make anybody that he comes into contact feel important. And I've had conversations with him. Gosh, you guys have seen me, and I can't make a basket to save my life, and yet I can get off a call with him or something like that, and boy, he makes me feel like I can go out and make a play. So he's really, really connects. And the thing that I think all the really high level coaches have an ability to do is they have a real rock solid foundation, but they're always growing. And so he can go to the Final Four and wake up the next day, there's disappointment or there's jubilation or whatever that might be, but he's always forward thinking. So it's survive and advance, or get back to where we are and advance, or get back and win another one, whatever it might be. But he has the ability to really stay in the moment, and like I said, his people skills are fantastic.
Kev, go ahead.
What I always wondered about people like Coach Cal, the Coach K's, and all the other elite college coaches. And I just want to get your perspective on this. What do you think keeps them from making the jump to the big league if they have kind of mastered the art of college coaching at that point? I would think someone with that type of work ethic would want to kind of take on the next challenge in a way.
Yeah, I think that guys like Coach Cal, Rick Pitino, and there's a lot of others too that have made that jump. The head coach at Florida State, the head coach at Oklahoma. There's a litany of those guys that have gone to the NBA and come back. I think some of them think that the NBA is something that they certainly wanted to challenge themselves and see how successful they could be there. And I think some of them found that, man, I'm suited for the college game. And then I think some of the other ones recognized that they went and said, if I ever go back, I would need A, B, C, and D, so they wouldn't take just any job. It has to fit their needs. But I think it's really an individual basis as to why some guys go back and some guys, when they come back to the college game, they feel like they're back home.
All right. Well, we're gonna talk some other stuff here because Coach Stewart, I know you love to talk football and all the other sports just as much as you like talking about yourself. So,
well, I do want to be transparent here. And when Dave reached out to me, he said this was going to be the Oakland Raiders post-game show. So I've got all these notes prepared for the Raiders and the Chiefs and that kind of thing. So I think we do need to get started because we'll probably end up at about midnight.
Yeah, I'm also shocked to hear you say that. I'm surprised, Dave always brings in someone to help defend the Ravens. So I'm shocked, honestly. He's brought in a different fan base. So I'm glad to see you've diversified, Dave, and bring in new fans because I'm being outnumbered week in and week out, honestly.
I will say this, like whenever we've had Coach Stewart on, the conversations when we get to football, I'll never forget the one with Kev, and I'm so glad Kev is on because he probably remembers when we were all in that little studio together when Coach Stewart had the infamous line about Jarvis Landry that started what turned into a 20-minute back and forth
20-minute shouting match live on air in the middle of Rockland.
Don't worry, we're not going to bring that back up, Coach, and have that discussion, but that was still, I think, my favorite moment of all time from all the years that we've done.
I know I'm going off the rails here, but I would just like the three of you at some point to go back and look at the Ravens versus the AFC West and go back to the playoff game with the Chargers, go back to the games against the Chiefs, go back to the last time the Raiders played the Ravens, and then just educate me on what you see when you do that due diligence.
I love it. I love it. Coach Stewart is coming to play tonight. You know what? I don't even want to talk about college football. Let's get right into the NFL. Coach, when I texted you, I did not have any clue that the Las Vegas Raiders were going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. So let's start there. How are you feeling now that you've beaten Kansas City? Are the Raiders back?
Ooh.
Well, here's what I've seen. So if we throw like a 3 or 4 yard out, that's like a bomb for us. We have been, as Raider fans, have been begging to push the ball down the field and push it down the field, and going back to the old Cliff Branch days, way before you guys were all born, that was Raider football, and to see Carr throw the ball more than a 5 yard out has been a thing of beauty, and we're now averaging over 30 points a game here to start the season off. So I've said this to anybody that'll listen, and I'll tell you guys, the Raiders are back, baby.
I love it. I mean, it was very impressive offensively. To hold Pat Mahomes to 32 points and have him look as at times confused as he was really impressive. I give a lot of credit to Paul Gunther and to John Gruden for the game plan that they came up with. I'll be interested to see what happens the second time around when the Chiefs and the Raiders play. But it was a good win for the Raiders, Coach. I'll give your team props for that one.
Thank you. Yeah. Now, something that's happened here, and it's pretty evident in the Raiders game, but if you break down the film, Mahomes isn't getting the ball out, 5-step drop and getting the ball out. He's taking 7-step drops. He's taking 10-step drops. He's hold on to the ball. And as much as he has a gunslinger mentality and he's so talented, he can make some plays. He's got to get back to a 5-step drop and get the ball out. That's when they're dynamite. And obviously there are some advantages. The longer you hold the ball, the harder it is to defend, obviously, routes and those type of things. But also, if you can get pressure on him and make him move around a little bit, which Raiders were able to do in the second half, now those 7 to 10 step drops are problematic. And that's, he got himself in a bind in the second half doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree completely. I mean, I was having a conversation the other day where I said, Patrick Mahomes became, real famous on these long plays where he was holding the ball, running all over the place, and then he'd throw it 50 yards across the field, where it was very cool and it, obviously got him, his shot and proved that he could play. But he built and won a championship off the quick play and all that, like you said, where the Raiders really kind of got him back into, I wouldn't say, I don't know if flustered is the right word because he was still making passes, but when he had to backpedal and, that 5-step drop turned into like a 13 and he had to run back and forth, he looked a little confused. It looked like they had figured out their quick game a little bit and it almost put them back into how they used to play about a year or two ago where, they were looking just run across the field and get open. Like, I mean, in my opinion, that caused a lot of problems for him because their offense isn't designed right now for that. It was, I'd say, 2 years ago. That's how they like to play it. But now that it's more concise and, the plays Andy Reid calls, they're genius. But, when they have to flip it, that's what causes problems. And, I mean, I think you saw what can, cause problems for Patrick Mahomes. I think the AFC West as a whole, the Chargers gave him problems. The Raiders have. Maybe the AFC West has a better number on them than everyone else. And we need to take notes, honestly.
Well, I got to get that in my can.
I was going to say the Ravens could use the defensive game plan that the Raiders used the next time the Chiefs and the Ravens play because, good Lord, that was abysmal. I'll bring Kevin on this one and we'll start this conversation. The Dak Prescott injury, horrific, gruesome, whatever adjective you want to throw out, it was really bad. Kev, I'll ask this question. How much trouble are the Cowboys in without Dak Prescott?
They're in a bunch of, let me rephrase that. I was about to say they're in a bunch of trouble till I realized the division they're in. Where the team in second place has a tie. So they only need to win. What are they, 2-3? They only need to win realistically 5-6 more games.
Yep.
To end up getting that playoff spot and losing in the first round, like everyone in this chat probably thought they were going to, anyways. So
bro, their defense hates the offense. They must hate each other. Like there must be like literally every day they walk in and it's like a civil war between each other. Like
it's social.
It's ridiculous. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like Trayvon Diggs is a Montgomery County football product. I love him to death, but watching what happens to this man on a weekly basis is tragic. It's really a tragic thing. And him and the entire secondary really just go like that every single week.
They'll be okay because I think Andy Dalton will be just enough. I mean, he's not going to win them a game, I don't think, because, as you said, the defense is really bad, but he will do enough to keep them, I think, in games. But again, talking about the NFC East, that the Washington football team, and hell, even the 0-5 New York Giants still realistically have a shot to win that division, and that's how crazy this is.
I would like to also shout out, I guess it wouldn't be a shout out, but recognize Tony Romo with one of the biggest plunders of a call I've ever seen, where after it happened, immediately goes, "You got to hope this is a cramp." And then it panders to his leg just out. And he's like, "Oh, that's not a cramp." And you just go, "Tony, you should have waited like maybe, Tony Romo, the psychic, we all love that. He calls the play before it happens. You might want to just like let that one breathe a little bit on the injuries because you just have no idea until you actually see it." But it was just like mind blowing that he thought it might be a cramp because like right when he fell, Dak's like, "Yeah, come over on this sideline. Yeah, we're going to need you over here." It was preposterous.
Coach Stewart, you want to hop in on the Dak Prescott dilemma?
Yeah, for the Cowboys, it's hard for me to look at them and think who's in more trouble. Donald Trump Eddie O with LSU or with the Cowboys. I mean, you're right. The saving grace there is that the division is so bad that 3 wins could win that deal. But that deal is just riddled with bullets. I mean, the Cowboys could actually put a 12th person on the field defensively, and the rest wouldn't even blow a flag. You know, they are defensively. I mean, it is something to behold defensively, and that back end of that defense is unbelievable. But you know, Dalton has been a serviceable guy in that league for a long time, and he does have the ability to move the chains, and he's just not a guy that you can put it on his shoulders and he's going to carry you Sunday to Sunday. And if they rely on him to win them games, then they're in a world of hurt. Can he manage a game? Absolutely.
To that last point, I'm happy you brought that up because I'm curious to see if the offense changes to, okay, we're giving Zeke 30 carries a game now, or are they going to keep relying on all the weapons they have on the outside? Because I can't imagine they're just going to abandon their passing game altogether.
Yeah, the problem with the Cowboys is that when you score quickly, you put that putrid defense back on the field. I think they would be better off turning and handing it to Zeke and trying to run the clock a little bit. But having said that, you know, their skill position guys, it's just intoxicating, you know, and you've got to think as an offensive coordinator, when you get to the line of scrimmage, you're salivating at some of the matchups that you see. So it's hard to get away from that. But I just, you know, if they're built to play shootout football, I think that's a recipe for disaster when you change out Dak for the red rifle.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Honestly, right now they're playing like they're you know, younger brothers in the Big 12 right now. They're just playing shootout football. That's all they're doing. And it's just ridiculous that they're even staying in games at this point. I honestly, and the thing about giving Zeke the ball 30 times a game, if you did that last year, that probably would work. But this year, their offensive line right now, you could make an argument with all the injuries, you know, all the guys that opted out, retired and everything, like they could be like top 10 worst lines right now in football. Like they don't have the depth right now to deal with every injury they have. I think they have 3 guys starters out right now. At least 2 of them are done for the year, which is tragic. And then, you know, at that rate, you know, how many more guys can you bring in off a practice squad? You know, it's tough because like COVID and everything. How fast can you get a guy in for a tryout? You know, that kind of stuff. But I mean, it is the NFC East. Anything can happen. I don't know who can win it. I think it's between Eagles and Cowboys based on what I've seen. That's really it.
Let's transition and talk about Le'Veon Bell, who was released by the New York Jets last night.
You hate to see it.
In honor of my brother Brandon, I have to inaugurate Le'Veon Bell into the Ski Mask Hall of Fame. This man got, what was it, $28 million from the New York Jets to not have one single 100-yard game. Not a one. Not a one. This is terrible. I feel like, then again, he also had to deal with Adam Gase as a coach for the past couple years. So
I agree. I agree. Also, how about Adam Gase saying that it was like whether it was a schematic plan or not, it doesn't matter. How about him saying that? Like, I think that just defeats your purpose. I mean, he let him go out of spite and ego, which could be, you know, you're being disrespected as a head coach. You know, you feel like you're losing the locker room because of a guy. I get it. But, like, I think it was a panic move by him simply because he knows he's probably done. he can kind of see it. You got Dan Quinn being gone, Bill O'Brien, and they had a lot longer leash, in my opinion, than Adam Gase going into this season. So I think it's a big – I felt like you could have probably tried to work it out. You probably could have changed your game plan to get him more targets. I mean, for the Steelers, the guy was a great receiver as well. So I just feel like you give him one target last week, that just can't happen. You're paying a guy, first off, that much money. He needs to be touching the ball as many times as possible. I know he's coming off an injury, but how they handled him was atrocious. I do think the Steelers, it makes their O-line look so much better because of how they worked with him, how patient he is. It takes time for a team to get used to that. And good O-lines, bad O-lines, coaches, all that, it comes down to the point is, do you have guys that can work with a running back, or are you trying to convince this running back that he needs to work around what you already have in place? It wasn't going to work, I don't think, with the Jets. He went for the money, and that's all it was. You can't make the argument that he went there because he thought the Jets would be competitive. It doesn't make sense.
But as a running back in this league, especially one, 28, 29, one that's approaching 30, you have to get all the money you can because
I agree with that.
The moment the league thinks that they're going to try and get rid of you. I'm very curious to see what this next contract for him is going to look like. Because I know he's definitely not getting top of the line dollar, especially not signing to a team in the middle of the season. So if he ends up doing a short 1-year deal, couple million incentives, yada, 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 we can see what that parlays itself into for the offseason.
How much is Bill Belichick going to pay him? It's a real question.
Hopefully anything he wants. Anything he wants. I'm sick of my only viable receiver being James White and Julian Edelman, man. Bring Le'Veon up here.
Yeah, it makes sense. Honestly, at this point, Bill Belichick will get him in check. It's the most Patriots move you can make. Get a guy who has an ego, that kind of thing, who we all know is probably a very good player, and comes to the Patriots and just gets in the Patriot way. It's what happens, honestly. Happens time and time again.
And he gets to play the Jets twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets to rub it in their face. There's a lot of positives here, Le'Veon. Come on down. And we just got Cam back to practice. Come on now.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Coach Stewart, why don't you hop in here on the Le'Veon Bell discussion?
Yeah, I think obviously we're all Americans on the phone, and we recognize that somebody is innocent until proven guilty. But having said that, two guys, Le'Veon Bell, for the amount of money that he has stolen from the Jets, and what Derrick Henry did to Josh Norman last night, both of those guys need to be brought up on charges because Le'Veon Bell has absolutely stolen a Brink truck from the Jets. It was unbelievable what he got for the production that he gave the Jets. But I think there still is some tread on the tire there. And we can look to Ryan Tannehill to see that certain guys don't do well in certain systems. And it was interesting when Le'Veon Bell went there. We thought that was really going to be a benefit to a young quarterback like Sam Darnold. But they really put all that on Darnold and wanted to build the thing around Darnold. And Le'Veon Bell was a chess piece that wasn't wanted. Adam Gase didn't want him and made that public when he got there. And it was doomed from the beginning. Here's a guy who needs a fresh start. I think if he gets in the right system again, he could be certainly a guy that you have to account for both in the running and in the passing game.
Keep an eye on the Chicago Bears. I think that could end up being a pretty decent landing spot. Their run game is lackluster, to say the least. Yeah, well, that's being kind. I was trying to, put it in better terms.
We've held out our high hopes for David Montgomery, who is a decent guy, but
he's not a number one. He's a change. He's your guy that you go to when your number one needs a break.
And I think we've convinced ourselves, or we've tried to, and be optimistic. And, we want the guy to succeed, obviously. But It's just come to that point where I don't know if it'll ever manifest itself into what they think it'll be.
All right, now we need to do.
It was
Go
either
ahead.
it was either the Eagles or the Bears, and it was running to practice today. So I don't have this firmed up, but one of those two teams came out and said that they would not pursue him, and I'm not sure which one it was, but I know it was one of the two.
Interesting. All right, so I'm going to give Peyton the floor here. Coach, give you a little background on this. I made a comment about
yes. I was going to bring it up. The
Steelers rookie receiver, Chase Claypool, what was it, during the pre-draft?
It was during the draft.
I said he's got the body type of a tight end. That's what he looked like to me. Maybe that's what he profiled at the next level. So, Coach, now you're caught up. So I'm going to turn it over to the Steeler fan, and Peyton is probably just going to ream me for the next 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, Dave, it's been building up, my friend. I mean, week in and week out. The first week, we saw him get active. You know, a couple weeks later, he scored his first touchdown, a big one, like 80 yards. He's self-proclaimed himself with probably one of the best marketing tools, Mapletron, for being the next Megatron / he's Canadian. So that's a good move, I think, honestly, in your part. And he scored 4 touchdowns. Should have been 5 with a ghost pass interference call to help the Eagles, which I never saw. But yes, Dave, he scored 4 touchdowns against the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, maybe not the best defense, whatever you want to make it, but he did score 4 of them. Would you like to recant your tight end discussion, or would you like to name, actually label him what he is as a tough receiver? Or what would you like to do? It's ball's in your court, my friend. I mean, you can keep riding this tight end wave, but in my opinion, as this season goes, and clearly he's getting more and more targets, I don't think this is going to look good for you if you don't get off that train.
I told you. I freely admit I screwed that one up. I will freely admit that I was wrong. And you don't hear me do it often. The only other time was when I said the Jets would go to the AFC Championship game. It's the only other time in history that I'll admit that I was completely wrong. So yes, Peyton, I will own it. I was wrong about Chase Claypool. Are you happy now?
Yes. Also, let me ask this to everybody. What does he have to do for the rest of the season to be considered a Rookie of the Year?
Be a quarterback?
No, because I don't. I mean, but you got to account, like, Herbert is playing out of his mind for a rookie, but they're losing games, so that has to factor, right?
That's what I was about to say. Herbert is winless. We may not see Tua until like week 8 because Ryan Fitzpatrick just refuses to play bad to give the fans what we want, and Joe Burrow is on an abysmal team with Swiss cheese for an offensive line. But somehow, some way, they're gonna find a way to give it to the quarterback, unless he gets like what? 10, 12 touchdowns, 1,000 yards, a ridiculous amount of receptions, and is the clear-cut number 1 receiver on that team.
Could be possible. The way it's going right now.
More importantly, I have to bring this point up. This point has to be made. The Steelers have not spent a single first-round pick on a wide receiver from
ever.
2010 to 2020. I don't know if it's ever, but I know for a fact it's not in the last decade. Here is why I bring this up. Because for every week of this season and the season before, I've had to watch N'Keal Harry trot himself onto the field, our illustrious first-round draft pick for the New England Patriots, and that is the one flaw in the armor of Bill Belichick, is his lack of ability to draft receivers or sign receivers. It is glaringly bad. Meanwhile, the Steelers have been thriving with some of the best receivers this league has seen off of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th round draft picks. It isn't fair. It simply is not fair.
I mean, on paper, you look at it. If you date it back, we had Mike Wallace, and obviously all these people in their own right were top of the game at their prime. You had Emmanuel Sanders, Antonio Brown. God, imagine his suspension's up in a few weeks. Just letting everybody know that's still out there. And to think that some teams won't be that desperate, I'm just putting that out there to remind everybody. Then you got Deontay Johnson, who's been, he's been hurt the last couple of weeks, but he's shown promise. Juju, Claypool. Really, the only bad receiver I can remember to date that we've drafted is probably Limas Swede, and that was out of Texas. And that was if you ask any Steelers fans, that was the biggest bust because we drafted him in the second round, and he was awful. Like, the dude literally had bricks for hands, and I don't even know if he ever broke 100 yards ever in the NFL, ever, like total. It was abysmal. But that's our only fail, right? Oh, and Martavis Bryant, but
that's more of a behavior thing.
But that still counts because he was a beast. Like he was on a tear for a while there. Him and AB. But I mean, yeah, I feel like we just get skilled players. We're not going to go in the first round and get them. We always draft offensive linemen or we'll go defensive. That's just what we do. And their philosophy is there's always other guys out there that they can find in the second, third, fourth, fifth round picks. There's always guys out there, and they know how to fit them in.
One of the advantages that a Steeler has is that Ben holds onto the ball in the pocket longer than any quarterback in the NFL. And we began the conversation talking about Mahomes and holding the ball and the 7 to 10 step drop. And yet when Mahomes runs and he runs to the right or he runs to the left, he's not throwing across his body across the field consistently. And no quarterback is. That's a suicide throw. When you rush the Steelers and Ben is holding the ball for 6 and 7 and 8 days, he's holding the ball in the pocket. It's much easier for those wide receivers to become open and benefit from that, as opposed to now when someone's broke the pocket and now you're now running as if the four of us are designed to play on the asphalt, and you're just trying to create space for your quarterback to throw in a window.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I've always thought when Ben Roethlisberger has to throw a quick pass, I've never thought that's our best play. It's always let there be chaos, and he'll find a way to make it work in the most absurd way possible. And he still throws one of the hardest pump fakes I've ever seen, where it literally, I don't know how the ball doesn't come out every single time, but it's all madness. It's like he thrives in the chaos, and we've benefited from it for years. But also at times, we've definitely failed from it. So it's honestly like, I know Mike Tomlin likes to call him like John Wayne. He's a gunslinger in the fact that, not that he may be, throwing for 400, 500 yards, but that he'll do whatever, whenever, and you never know what he's going to do at any point.
All right, let's pick some Week 6 games, and we'll stay right with the Steelers. They've got the 4-1 Cleveland Browns coming to town. The Browns are saying this is a rivalry game.
They said this is their Super Bowl today. That's what Kareem Hunt said.
We have no word, by the way, whether Myles Garrett will go after Mason Rudolph or not during the game. We have not. That's not been corroborated or anything.
See, I have a big belief that right before the game, because Myles Garrett said he wants to squash whatever their problems are. I have a bet that you might see like an NFL might blow it up, that they're like hugging or something pregame, that they have a conversation.
If they hug, I'll be disgusted. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be disgusted.
It would be the most wild turn of events I've ever seen in sports.
I'm gonna think somebody dropped the bag off if they hug. I'm gonna be very honest with you.
All right,
there's a bag sitting in someone's locker.
Coach Stewart, we'll start with you. Who do you like in the Browns-Steeler game?
Guys, you're not going to do it to me. You're not going to bait me at. It's the woman I haven't seen in 4 months. You three guys tell me you got to see her. Unbelievable. You won't recognize her. I go out. I buy the pants. I buy the shoes. I buy the shirt. I'm ready. It's the same woman. It's the same Browns. Until I see something different, it's the same Browns.
Yes.
Right? And the only way to really judge if they're now somebody else is in the division. And until they start beating the Steelers, the Ravens, I'm not buying it. I'm going Steelers.
Yeah.
Great analogy, by the way.
I love that. I'll steal that and I'll trademark you. I'll quote you. I'll literally quote you every time I use that for the rest of my life because that is just awesome. Because I've described the Browns that way my entire life. Like my dad obviously grew up a Steelers fan, and the rivalry with the Browns was different back then. They hated Cleveland. They were so close to them. But to me, I've always put the Bengals above them just because they played dirty, and I've never liked the way those games always ended up. But to me, my biggest rival with them is the Ravens. It's the Ravens and Steelers run the AFC North. And until they beat them both, like you said, and not just like one game. Like the Browns have beat us before, I get that. Like in the early season. But like until they sweep us, which they don't do, I can't go against them. And they beat us last year for the first time in God knows how long, and we had Mason Rudolph in. Ben Roethlisberger, I don't know how many times he's ever lost to the Cleveland Browns, if ever. Like the craziest stat was on Sunday, Baker Mayfield became the winningest quarterback at First Energy Stadium in Cleveland, and number 2 is Ben Roethlisberger. Like, that should tell you everything you need to know about these two organizations. Like, it may be close. It may come down to the wire. We played down to people. I get that. But until they beat us twice in a season, I'm never buying it. I'm just never going to believe anything. They could have anybody on that team, and I don't trust them.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there. I've been there. I recognize this deal. It's the pants in the back of the closet, and I'm on the keto diet, and I'm eating the fruit, and I'm getting up at 4 in the morning, and I've got the crunches going, and I got the video going, and I've got the motivational tape, and I reach for the pants. Guys, they still don't fit. It's the Browns. The pants don't fit. I'm not buying it.
It's a clean sweep for the Steelers because Baker Mayfield is playing at a very average level. I mean, he's got great weapons around him, and they seem to buy in to Kevin Stefanski in the run game. But like Peyton has said, like Coach has said, like Kev has said, I can't trust the Browns. I won't trust the Browns. So I'll take the Steelers to win this one at home pretty handily. Let's move on to the next game, which is the 4-0 Green Bay Packers taking on Kev's former quarterback of his team, now with Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, who we're still trying to figure out whether he knew it was 4th down or not on Thursday night's game.
He definitely didn't. He definitely didn't. 1,000%.
We'll start with you. Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady? Who are you taking? They have lost Coach Stewart there, so
was that me?
We'll come back to him.
Yeah.
Tom Brady in this deal, huh? Yeah, I can't even think that I'm on. I like the Packers. I'm not sure they're not the best team in the NFC, and all of this is done without Devontae. I just think that the Packers are a better team. The whole is better than the Tampa parts. Tampa 12 games in, maybe we're looking at having a different conversation. But right now, I just think the Packers are at the top of the food chain.
I would agree. I think this is Aaron Rodgers. We called it at the beginning. The FU tour is, I think, what he's on, and he's just been torching everybody in sight. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers are an average football team. I still firmly believe, just like I did way back when all this happened, that this is the hype train that we saw the Cleveland Browns get on last year, and everybody put them up on this high pedestal. Tampa Bay is going to be a 3-3 football team that fits right in that NFC South. So give me the Packers, and I think Aaron Rodgers sends a big-time message.
Yeah, I'd agree. Also, I'm not buying that Tom Brady forgot what down it was. I'm not getting on that train. I will not believe that the greatest football player, in my opinion, to ever play the game, forgot what down it was. I just will not forget. I won't believe it. He's played this game for so long, and I just cannot believe the man forgot what down it was. I think he wanted to make a great play. He gambled. It didn't work out, and because he had options for a wide open first down, he didn't take it. So I'm just not going to buy it. I won't. But to your point, I'm also going to take Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the guy. I think everybody wants us to believe that the hype train is fake and it isn't real, and that this can't last. Like last year they went 13-3, but it felt kind of like fluky in some games. But I don't think it is. I mean, they have a solid team right now. They give up a lot of points, more than they probably would like to on defense, but I think everybody is right now. I think people are giving up easy touchdowns, and I mean, I don't know how I could bet against Aaron Rodgers. He's playing almost flawless football.
I haven't liked anything I've seen from the Bucs this year, to be honest. A very undisciplined football team, lots of penalties. Tom Brady, again, he definitely forgot it was fourth down. Come on now, like we can be honest about these things. He definitely definitely forgot. We can be honest. And Aaron Rodgers is humming, like you guys said. I got to take the Packers.
The Sunday night game is the Los Angeles Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. And I'll ask this question because I think we're all in agreement that the Rams are going to win this game. Who is the bigger threat to Seattle? Is it Los Angeles or San Francisco? Coach Stewart, we'll start with you.
In reference to the game, yeah, I agree with you. I think the Rams are going to win that game. Something's going on in San Francisco, and I think it starts with the quarterback. I just think he's grossly overrated, and until they solve who's under center for them, they can only be so good. And then obviously the injuries too, it's kind of caught up with them.
One of the
second. Go ahead.
One of the most inexplainable trends in all of sports is the Super Bowl loss hangover, where a team that was built so well to win their entire conference just a year before can take the exact same group of players. Granted, they've had some injuries, but at the same time, for the most part, the exact same group of players, and turn out such an abysmal product the following year. It's jarring what's happening to the 49ers right now. Jimmy G has fallen off a cliff, is what it seems like, to the point where they're benching him to quote unquote protect him. They're trying to protect him from bad headlines. His ankle is fine. So I definitely think it is the Rams that is the bigger threat to the Seattle Seahawks. I think we were a year too early on the Cardinals. Back to that hype train thing you talked about before, but it's definitely the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams are playing football kind of like they did, back in 2018. They're not quite there. They're running back. They're another team that could get Le'Veon Bell, but they may, make a move for it. I don't know what their cap is like, anything, but maybe a one-year deal makes sense. But right now, I mean, sometimes when you bet on some games in football, you just say, what was I thinking? And I bet against the Dolphins and Fitzmagic, and I just felt stupid all day. I just felt like an absolute fool. Every second of it, I never thought it was going to work for me. And I don't know what's going on with Jimmy G. I don't know how this offense – I mean, I think I held Kyle Shanahan to a higher standard, that he could make this work with anybody. But right now, I mean, and they're banged up on defense. That doesn't help. Like, you're out of Bosa. Sherman's hurt. Like, there are things that aren't going their way. It's the ultimate hangover from losing a Super Bowl. Like, we see it happen with the Rams, the Falcons. Like, I don't know what it does, if it's necessarily a real thing, if we've created it kind of. But, I mean, right now they're going through it. And it'll really come down to the stretch of what can Kyle Shanahan do to rally this team. I mean, they're in serious trouble here, especially if they lose this game. I think you need to see a competitive game out of Jimmy G. You need to see that he can make these throws. I mean, I know they criticized George Kittle for getting 15 targets. I think you need to get back to getting him 15 targets until you can see anyone else helping out. But right now, I'd have to go with the Rams. They just look so much better.
Yeah, the Rams are the easy answer when you consider the other options that we're talking about. San Francisco, it's all their good players are sitting on IR right now, so kind of hard to sit there and expect them to be the contender. And the Rams are playing Ram football that we saw them go to the Super Bowl with 2 years ago. So to me, it's the Rams, and it's pretty easy. Coach Stewart, I know you had an extra point you wanted to add on before we move on.
No, I had a question, I guess, for everybody. Because of no OTAs and mini camp, and then some teams that have had a new regime, i.e. Cleveland has done well. Carolina with Rule down there is won 3 of their last 4. Who has the advantage? Does the new regime have the advantage because there's not enough tape and you don't see tendencies? And although teams aren't showing you a whole lot in their preseason, or do the teams that have older guys that are established, if they don't have OTAs, those teams that aren't integrating, new guys in that are recently drafted and they're really relying on those guys, who do you think has the advantage in this type of a season?
I'm gonna have to go with the guys of the older regime, because I think the new coaches like Matt Rule, I think he's the exception and not the rule. Because you look at who are the teams on top. The Packers, they were 13-3 last year with Matt LaFleur, second year in the system. They're looking even better this year. The Seahawks look great. Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson have been at it for years.
Winning games by the skin of their teeth like they always do. Go.
Exactly. More of the same. So the teams that are at the top of the league are teams that have that continuity. Because you can look at then look back to the Cowboys. You see how well they're implementing their new system is not working out too well for them. So I would have to lean towards the older regimes.
Yeah, and honestly,
but you'd have to say that the offensive piece of the Cowboys is working out really well before Dak went down. I mean, they're scoring points like there's no tomorrow, right? It's just the defensive part is a mess.
Yeah, I think offensive teams are really at an advantage in the aspect that just more points are getting scored overall. I think in the first couple weeks I've seen more missed tackles than I've ever seen. Now, I don't know if that comes from preseason, OTAs, a combination of both. I just think that if you don't have a solid defense in place or a coordinator or anything like that, I think they're at the super big disadvantage, because I don't know how much they're, NFL teams aren't tackling anyways a lot during, the season in practice, how much they're actually getting to those mental reps, going out there, how much is that actually helping them? Do they need a more physical practice that they can't get because of COVID restrictions that they feel they shouldn't be doing? I think that's where the defense gets hurt. And I will give that Matt Rule, though, he is new, but Joe Brady and Teddy Bridgewater have already worked together before, and they know each other's system. So I think that's what's helped them going into this, that Joe Brady and the Teddy Bridgewater connection over trumps the whole new coach thing. I think it's just benefited their offense. I mean, they don't even have Christian McCaffrey, and Mike Davis has been playing phenomenal, stepping into that role. So I think defenses are really at the biggest disadvantage right now.
Yeah, I would. Do you think, along that line of questions, Dave, I don't mean to interrupt you, do you think that looking at Joe Burrow or looking at what Herbert's doing with the Chargers, do you think that has hurt young quarterbacks, or it has not had any effect on young quarterbacks?
I think
and our quarterbacks in new regimes, whether it be Bridgewater or Brady or Rivers or who it might be.
I think there is, to an extent. It's a little more noticeable, I think, with the veteran quarterbacks. Like the Tom Brady, everybody's been talking about him going up and down the sideline, barking at guys when they're not on the field. That's because he's used to the Patriot regime, which was steadfast and you do your job and everybody does what they need to do. And Tampa Bay, the last couple of years, hasn't been that. So I think, to your point, it's a little more noticeable with the veteran quarterbacks in Rivers and with Brady, when you can see that they're just not in sync, where like Herbert is in sync with his receivers. He just Mike Williams can't stay on the field. Keenan Allen in and out of the lineup. Same with Joe Burrow. You have AJ Green who made the business decision in the game Sunday. I mean, at least with the rookie quarterbacks, they're molding that offense to him. Where as the veterans are coming in, having to learn an entirely new system, and I think that's what you're seeing. The rookies have it molded for them a little bit to ease them in. And you're seeing some of the veterans have ups and downs because they're not getting the offense isn't molded to Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers is learning Frank Wright's offense and what Frank Wright wants to do in it and taking Phillip Rivers' skill set at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough because I mean Joe Burrow. I mean, I pray for the kid every week. He's just getting killed, man. I mean, there's no help there. I mean, there's just no help for him. I mean, you can see how the guy could, make some plays and this and that, but I mean, also I'd like to bring up a point about the Bengals itself. There's nothing really to talk about them winning any games, really, other than Joe Burrow's kind of cool, whatever. AJ Green, that is a guy that they just need to cut ties with because he doesn't want to be there. He literally said on the sideline, "Trade me." I don't know exactly what play it was, but he had the opportunity to either stop the Ravens from getting the turnover. He could have made a play and not allowed a defensive touchdown, and he just didn't give a shit. He just didn't care, and that's the point. If you want to transition that team into a winning team, like other than a Marvin Lewis team that we saw for years, that stuff, whatever that is, that's got to stop. Like he doesn't care. He doesn't want to win. He wants out. He wants to be on a winning team, and I get that's frustration of being on where you've been the last couple of years. You don't want to play for such a losing franchise, but I mean, you went to the Bengals in the first place. You knew it was an uphill battle. I want to put him on blast for being, just a coward, honestly. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like I don't know if you can go back and watch it, but the man literally could have made a tackle, and it doesn't impact the game. They're already going to lose it. But it's about effort, and he literally didn't show any. And it's just sad to see AJ Green, a guy with that talent, do that. Off topic, but I had to say it. I brought it up.
It's not off topic. It's a fair point because the play you're talking about was when Joe Burrow never should have made the throw, overthrew AJ Green, and Marcus Peters picked it off, and then AJ Green was running right next to Marcus Peters up the sideline until finally someone else made the tackle.
It was he was blocking for the Ravens. It was honestly like getting in the way of the Bengals players.
So like when Earl Thomas did that with Derrick Henry in the playoff game, is that what we're talking about, sort of thing? I have no bones about making fun of Earl Thomas, by the way. And Earl, if you ever are listening, you're more than welcome on our show to talk about that and come after me. But yeah.
Also,
he better be happy Josh Norman took the crown of worst stiff arm.
Yeah, that was.
He better be blessed that Josh Norman got tossed out of the club like that.
I still can't believe what I watched happen with such he was running fast, but I don't know many people that could do that with such minimal distance, and he literally just shoved the man into the next week.
Derrick Henry is Thanos. I think we just have to come to the conclusion that we are watching a galactic conqueror play running back in the NFL. He's a different human being.
I thought I was watching it in 3D. All of a sudden, Josh Norman's in my lap.
Oh man. Let's we got one more game to discuss. It was supposed to be the Thursday night game. That's now the Monday table setter. It's the 4-1 Chiefs, the 4-1 Buffalo Bills from New Era Field. Coach Stewart, we'll start with you. Are you picking Dan Williams or are you picking the Buffalo Bills?
Ooh,
Dan Williams.
Yeah.
If I'm sticking in the AFC West, I think the Chiefs right the ship. I believe in Andy Reid. I just think they're just too good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know what the number is, Andy Reid off a loss. But I mean, it's got to be in his favor. I would just assume all across the board. I mean, they're going to try to. The Bills are going to try to get after him, blitz the hell out of him. I would assume with that defense, he's going to take advantage. I don't know how well they match up defensively with Tyreek Hill. I mean, you have Trey White, but he's one guy. I don't know what else you're not going to. I don't know what Josh Norman's role in the next coming weeks is going to be. They're just going to ask him to take a seat on the bench until he thinks about what happened to him, honestly. They're probably just going to keep him locked in the weight room and tell him it was we think you might have COVID. We have to distance you. We have to put you in quarantine. You're like, but I'm in the weight room. Yeah. Tragic. You should take advantage of that. So that's probably what they're going to do with him. But no, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think they're going to roll, actually.
I'll take the Chiefs as well. Not because of Dan, but because they are the better team in Buffalo. I hate to say it. I'm glad Brandon isn't here being a resident Bill fan, but Josh Allen still proved to me last night that he is still what I have said for 3+ years. Still wildly inaccurate. Still going to be a hard guy to trust that he's going to make the money throws when you need him to make the money throws. So give me the Chiefs.
I concur. The Chiefs.
All right. Well, we'll get parlaying with Peyton here, and then we will wrap this show up because this has been a lot of fun. So, Peyton, how'd you do last week parlaying?
2-1. 2-1 again. I had the Panthers. We had the Cardinals, who I knew that was a lock for sure. And we had the Rams over, which was on pace very quickly. And then, glad to see Alex Smith get back out there. That's truly awesome. But for a betting purpose, a guy coming back from that kind of injury just shows you how far along, honestly, we are in health and medical technology, because Joe Theismann, same injury, was never coming back from that back then. It's just impossible. But now, it's good to see that. It's probably good optimism, honestly, for Dak Prescott. He's like, I could probably figure out a way to come back and play well. I don't know how well Alex Smith was prepared to play that game, but he was not prepared to score me any more points after that point. So when he went in, I was clapping for a moment, and then I just burned my money because I knew it was over. The ride was over. But this week, I'm gonna ride, honestly, with favorites at this point. I think that's probably my best bet. So we're gonna go with the Panthers -1.5, Packers money line, and then we're gonna go Rams -3, and it pays out 20 to win 120. So at this point, I think I was trying to get some underdogs in there, some risky kind of things, but that's what we're gonna go with. It probably won't hit again, and I'll go 2 or 3. It sucks, it really does, but hopefully we can win one here or there. And Survivor Pool is out right now. So I would, what I'm going to do? Right on the spot. Punishment for whoever loses. Dave, you're up first. Lock of the week. What will you pick?
Ooh, lock of the week. Lock of the week. I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins to beat the New York Jets at home Sunday afternoon. That is my lock of the week.
Okay. Loser has to recite Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven, on live stream. That's what you have to do.
I'm okay with that. I don't know if Coach Stewart or Kev is, but I'm fine with that.
I also will put that subject to change. I may make it worse. I'm really just running this entire thing like a dictatorship. So I'm going to think of worse things for you.
All right, I'll be down. I have a lock.
What do you got?
Lock of the week: the Cardinals are going to shell the Cowboys on Monday Night Football.
Okay, I like that.
Coach Stewart, what's your lock of the week?
I'm going to go out here on a limb as a tribute to Coach Williams. I'm going to go the Chiefs over the Bills. Lock of the week.
I like it. Play it safe. I like the thinking. You play it safe so you don't have to recite the Raven or whatever Peyton's whatever's in your head comes out.
Actually, what we'll have to do is our guest next week will have to suffer the punishment for whoever our guest was. So that's the best way to do this.
I like it. So there you go, Coach. You don't actually have to face the ramifications.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
All right, Coach, since you're our guest, is there anything else you want to bring up before we get out of here? Because there's always something we always miss when we have you on that we're like, damn, wish we had time for.
Rapid fire, real quick. Is Haskins with the Redskins, with the football team after the trading deadline?
I would say yes, simply because I don't know if they're done with him yet. I think they may. You run the risk of what can you get for him later on, but I just don't know who would trade for him, honestly, at this point. Maybe if an injury pops up, someone needs somebody really bad, but I'm going to say they're going to ride with him.
I'm going to say yes. I have talked to some people that has worked with Dwayne Haskins before, said that there's a lack of work ethic that really bothers them, and I know that pisses Ron Rivera off to no end. I think that that's going to keep him in Washington because it's like the Earl Thomas. When you have that reputation that floats around a little bit, teams are going to be very leery to take him, and I think Dwayne Haskins has to prove that he's going to make the adjustments and continue to work to be better, and I don't think you're going to see it before the trade deadline. So I'll say yes, he'll still be with the team.
I got to disagree, man. The way they have literally buried this man at the bottom of the depth chart, they're looking to shop him ASAP. And there's going to be some team that's going to convince themselves and talk themselves into, well, he was a first-round talent, 50 touchdowns at Ohio State, blah, blah, blah. It's coming. So I'm saying there's no chance he's on the Redskins come trade deadline. I mean, the football team. I'm sorry.
All right. Coach Stewart, where do you stand on that?
I don't think he's there. Now, I don't know where he goes, but he's not Rivera's guy. Three different coaches in less than 2 years. You demote a guy to the point where he's not even dressed. I just think that there are too many negatives there to make that work.
Not only was he not dressed, he wasn't even at the game. They didn't even let him take reps in practice this week. Like, they're getting rid of him quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Right.
All right. And that is going.
Kevin, one real quick thing with the football team, and I'll let you close, Dave. I hate to be that guy, but I was not because Peyton brought it up earlier and it's been burning me up ever since. I was not on the Alex Smith love train. I was scared and frightened every single step he took while he was on the football.
Yeah, Aaron Donald probably gave him a golf clap and then just said, "I am since you've been gone, but I'm going to tear you up." He just jumped on his back and put all of his weight on him, and it was horrifying.
Bro, I literally felt like a concerned mom, like watching, like, Alex, sweetie, no! Like, I really was concerned the whole time. I couldn't believe it, what we were watching. And I know we praise football players for the warrior mentality and beating adversity and all there, but some people just gotta learn how to call it quits, man. And I've watched that E60 way too many times to be gung-ho and happy about Alex Smith being out there. And there's a chance he could be the starting quarterback for the Skins at some point this season, like actual starter for games upon games. I don't know, man. I'm concerned. Personally, I'm concerned.
Yeah, I also got to imagine, I mean, I don't know if his wife wears like an Apple Watch, a Whoop Band, a Fitbit, but we got to see what her heart rate was at the entire game because it had to have been like literally like the watch itself was probably calling 911 for a cardiac arrest because she was probably horrified. Rightfully so. I would have been.
It just said ERR in the digits.
Yes.
It does not compute.
Oh,
right. That's
all
it.
right.
I'm sorry. I had to bring that up. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Our thanks to Coach Stewart, who I feel bad that we hadn't had you on sooner, Coach, but don't worry. You've got an invite on whenever you want to talk about your Raiders.
Love it, guys. Really enjoyable.
All right. For Coach Stewart, for KP, who did an excellent job filling in for Brandon, as always.
Yep.
For Peyton Gerard.
Let's have a good week. Let's beat the Browns like we're supposed to. Get out 5-0 on the mind. Let's have a good week.
I'm Dave Stomwettle. This has been the Opening Kickoff Podcast. Have a great week, everybody.